Both of these gentlemen are very good friends of mine. I've known Darren Kidd, the CEO of Rally slash R-Link, as we're kind of branding the R will stand for Rally, but R-Link. So from a marketing standpoint, you'll be able to say, hey, I'll send you R-Link and we'll go through the information, and then you actually send them R-Link, which would be kind of cool. And he and I have, gosh, we go back 15 plus years. Worked together on a few different projects, but really started working closely together a little over half a year ago. And he's somebody that brought this idea to me, and I just thought it was really, really brilliant. And hopefully this is one of the last Zooms we ever do. Soon we'll be doing our link meetings and getting rewarded for doing meetings on our own software. So that's something we're all excited about. And then obviously Paul Michael, gosh, we go back 24 years. Doesn't seem a day over 23 years though. So
or 28.
Paul and I were in the network marketing world together. He was somebody that was doing a lot of the trainings, came into my office and helped me build a pretty big organization. And I wasn't even in his team, but he was really traveling, helping my organization grow, and just he's that servant leader. He's somebody that really wants to help people, and he's somebody that's really about disrupting industries, disrupting markets. And he created the REV rideshare, the Revo rideshare, which is short for revolution, because he saw a need in that space, and there was an opportunity to disrupt that space, and it's a massive space, and so he just started cranking away on it, and we started to talk about the possibility of utilizing blockchain technology to give an advantage to Revo when you're going up against a company like Uber or Lyft. Uber's a $150 billion company or whatever it is. You certainly want to have an ace or two up your sleeve, and so we've been able to figure out some efficiencies that the blockchain allows us to utilize that'll make it very difficult for centralized companies to compete. So, real quick, I want to open up. Why don't we start with you, Paul? Just maybe share a little bit of your background, and then kind of how we ended up where we're at today with Revo Rideshare.
Thank you so much. Well, I'm excited. I mean, I knew nothing about blockchain. I knew blocks, but they were just like stuff I played with when I was little. But I didn't understand any of this blockchain stuff. But like Tony said, and I've always been into trying to find things, a better way to do it. My mentor taught me when I first got in business, in the same business Tony and I were in, it's like if you find a big solution to a big problem, you usually come up with a big paycheck. And the big paycheck never really excited me as much, but just going and making a difference did. And so Tony, with our businesses that we've done over the years, some of the things we always say is, listen, we want to bring value to no matter who comes involved with us, whether it's a client, whether it's an IBO, whether it's a rep in the company, whether it's employees in the company. We always want to have value. And so probably about 7-8 months ago, I really started looking at things, because Tony and I come from a space of we were in the delivery business, kind of like Uber and Lyft, got out of that. And I always knew that there was a better way to do things. I started looking at the rideshare space because I do a lot of traveling. I'm on the road a lot. I'm in a lot of Ubers and Lyfts. And when Tony and I were doing the delivery business, we did a lot of deliveries. We understood that kind of what the drivers went through. And so we were always sympathetic and empathetic to what they went through. And even more so over the last 8 months, I'm actually out in Utah right now. And the first time I ever heard about the blockchain, I was on the exact property that Tony brought me to find out about the blockchain. I'm out here with some Highland cattle, and and we came out here, and I sat through a presentation about the blockchain, and I was already working on the rideshare app, but there was no hint of ever wanting to do it with the blockchain. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. I didn't know anything about it. But as I came out here, I knew nothing after I left either, just so you understand that. Like, I didn't understand the blockchain. But what I did understand is I got in a car, and the next morning I left from Sundance, which we're about 4 miles from, and I got up at 5:30 in the morning. The driver had to accept the ride, get up at 5:30 in the morning, put the wear and tear on their car, take me in over an hour into Salt Lake at 5:30 in the morning. And I asked the driver, I said, let me ask you a question. How much are you going to make on this ride? And they showed me on their app $95. And I said, well, I'm not going to try to upset you, but I'm paying $263 for this ride before I even tip you. And what she goes, yeah. And a lot of people, when they find out that you're going to pay that amount of money, they don't tip. And I said, and this is, I started looking at that and I'm like, you know what? Drivers pay so much money. And I mean, they've had to put wear and tear on their car, all these different things. And so I got even more passionate about the ride share. And Tony started talking to me about blockchain and how it could be done in a decentralized fashion and how, you know, people all around the world could participate. And I knew this was a global, opportunity. I was just on a call with a group from Sweden today that is so fired up and excited about what we're doing that I was on a call with them for over an hour. And so we started putting this program together. You know, I'm not going to get into all the intricacies and everything, but we're putting a lot of money into this. We already have. But one of the things I tell people all the time is listen, whether you understand the whole program, whether you understand how it all works, what you need to understand is every time a ride happens, our clients pay less, our drivers make more, and every time a ride happens, someone gets a reward. And that's about as simple as you can make it. And so we put together an amazing team of people. Tony's brought some amazing, I have my developer out here. We actually had the ceremony. And listen, I'm so not a technical person. I don't understand things. They were like, listen, we're going to have this secret meeting and we're going to put this in a room and you can't bring your phone. And if you know me, I don't go without my phone for very long. But we were in a room and it was probably one of the most amazing experiences of my life because it really showed me how much thought and energy and money and time and effort that the group, that the community that they put together put around launching our blockchain. And so as of today, officially, we've launched the blockchain. I walked out of there and they gave me a bag with some keys that I'll probably turn over to Tony as quick as possible, so I'm not responsible for them. But everything is done on a decentralized fashion. They put everything to do. Is an amazing way to do it, and so I'm so excited. At the end of this month, on May 29th, we're actually going to start the nodes will start producing the rewards. We're already doing rides in West Palm Beach, Florida, and surrounding counties around there and cities. We just had some gentlemen that came down from Orlando who've been involved with Connect for a few years. And it's funny, they said they came down and one of our drivers called me and goes, hey, there's some gentlemen that want to talk to you. And this was on Sunday before I left. And they said, we just wanted to see if this thing was really real, if we could do a ride. And it was awesome because they started talking to me and it was like, we did talk the whole ride. And so it's so exciting about what's going on, how we're doing things, at the 29th of this month. And I know Tony's going to talk about it and Darren may as well, is that I was convinced about how important it was to be a part of this before today. But after the 2 hours and seeing what they put together, I'm even more convinced that we're going to change the world in ways that nobody's ever seen because of technology. And I'll leave you with this. I see so many companies that they use technology to manipulate and use and take advantage of people. And I tell people all the time, a lot of these companies in the rideshare space and delivery space and a lot of these other companies, they are built as a technology company. And unfortunately, people get in the way and they have to deal with them. With us, we're a company that's built, and it's not even a company, it's a community built around people, and technology is going to be used to enhance their lives. So I'm so excited. I'm so blessed to be a part of this. And I'll turn it back over to you, Tony.
Right on, brother. Appreciate that and appreciate the background side. Let's move over to Darren. I'd love to hear, obviously, a little bit about your background so you can share it with folks that maybe haven't had a chance to work with you or haven't met you prior. And let us know, obviously, kind of how you've taken that journey from where you started in business to where you're at today and why you're so excited about bringing Rally/R-Link into this blockchain community.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thanks for having me on. And let me just say something real quick before I forget. Here's what's exciting. Tony went out years ago and said, hey, listen, we want to build a company and we want to go head to head with DoorDash and Uber Eats. And that's a big feat, right? Like, because they're multi-billion-dollar companies. And he did exactly what he intended to do. He goes, look, we're gonna go head to head with the goal for them wanting to purchase us. And with delivery, you have to have a restaurant, you have to have a driver, you have to have a customer. There's a lot of moving pieces, more moving pieces than it is with, you know, the Revo rides, right? And he went out, and him and Paul, they created a Fortune Inc. 500 company, and they ended up merging. You know, Tony merged with Delivery.com. It's the number one franchisee in the world right now. So it's not like you have someone that's a part of that company that's never done that before, right? Like this is a simpler model, and it makes so much sense. If the driver makes more, the rider pays less, and you earn rewards when anyone takes a ride, that's a no-brainer. And so I'm excited about that. So just a little bit about me. I won't bore you with too many details, but 25 years ago, things weren't going too well in my life. I was bankrupt, government assistance, applying for food stamps, and all these things were going wrong. And there was a pivotal point in my life where I go, enough is enough. And it was when I was going through my little girl's piggy bank, and she walked in, and the money that I said, hey, someday we'll go to Disney World, I'm taking her money for Disney. And she runs out crying. And, I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people that live their life someday, and someday never comes. Someday leads to a town called nowhere. But I also have found people like the mentors that we have. If you look at, Tony, I don't know too many people that have multiple companies that have done several billion the last couple of years, like Tony, not to mention everything else that he's doing. And so some people, some days are other people's every days. And so that was a day that things hurt bad enough. There was a pivotal point in my life. And that's where my book came from, I Will Until. And so, that made me a best-selling author, which should inspire and motivate a lot of you. So over the last, several decades, I have had franchises. I have been in direct sales and built organizations that hit hundreds of millions in revenue. And in each of those companies, because I was so hungry, I was coachable, willing to work, and I had desire, and people would look over me in the beginning. And in my mind, I'm like, hey, it's okay if you look over me, but when I pass you, you're going to have to look at me. And so, I was blessed to have the right mentors that sewed into me, that allowed me to go out and build all over the world, completely changed their life. And if you'd have told me I'd be, being interviewed by Grant Cardone and, all the magazines and all that stuff, I'd have said, that's crazy. But we've been very blessed. So with that, nothing motivates me more than being able to make a positive impact in people's life and being able to give them hope. So many people today, they do not have hope. But many of us, we want a better life for our family. We want to do better. We want to impact our community and then our country and the world. But it's so far out that we really don't know how to do that. And I've said this once before, a bunch of times before. If they had a class that showed us, hey, look, here's how to recognize the next big disruption, like Revo rides, like Rally/R-Link, we would all sign up for the class. We missed the internet. Jeff Bezos, Zuckerberg, all of them, they didn't. Elon Musk, none of them missed that. Cell phones, back in the day when it was terrible reception, there were several $1,000s, and we missed that. And so here we are in blockchain, which for those of you, I'm so glad Paul shared his story, because I was with him and Tony, right? We flew out there and we're getting hit with a fire hose of information. And I'm like, what is this blockchain stuff? But once I started digging in, and I'm like, wow, this is actually growing faster than the internet. In 1996, the World Economic Forum, not my broke neighbor, not people that want to give you advice that don't have the life that you really want. It's the World Economic Forum saying that blockchain will disrupt $867 trillion in traditional businesses. I'm like, you know what? This is everything I've prayed for. This is everything that I've been waiting for, the next big disruption. And it's the fastest adopted technology in history. And when you have stuff on the blockchain, we missed Zoom. We missed Uber. And by the way, if you went back, can you imagine somebody coming to you and saying, hey, listen, you know how we were raised never to get into a stranger's car? Our parents warned us every time we left the house. What if we pay to get into a stranger's car? We would have all thought that was the stupidest business idea we've ever heard. That's Uber, right? Or Airbnb, staying in strangers' homes. And so when you look at blockchain, we missed Zoom. We missed Uber. Here, there's no company. It's decentralized. We are the community. We own nodes. We own the project, right? So it's community owned. The power is going back to the people. So what I got excited about was I'm like, man, not only is video conferencing exploding after COVID, like it's companies will never go back to where they were ever before again. Right now, it's a hybrid model. They're going to work at home. They may work a couple days in the office, but it's never going back. Video conferencing has grown faster than it's ever grown. You've got all of these companies like big names like BlackRock and that are investing in video conferencing. And Tony, there was a guy that I followed for a long time. The guy he's made a fortune, and I'll never forget him saying this. He said, if you can appeal to the masses, you can dine with the classes. If you can appeal to the masses, you can dine with the classes. Who do you know that's using video conferencing? Pretty much every single person we talk to, whether they're real estate, whether it's a company, whether it's a network marketer, an influencer, an affiliate marketer, everyone we know is using video conferencing. And so if you have a way tonight, we didn't care what link we used, right? We didn't care if it was Zoom, go to meeting, go to webinar. But what if your link, you earned rewards, right? And we know how this works. When I go to get gas this past week and I go, oops, I almost used my debit card. I don't want to miss my airline rewards, the miles that I use when I use my American Airlines card. And so the way that I see the video conferencing, there's no loyalty. But once you have a link and you're earning rewards for doing meetings and sharing that with other people, you're never going to let anyone ever send you a link again. You're going to make sure that they have your link. So here's the way that I'm looking at Rally, which we're branding to our link, R-link. We'll get you all the information. Revo Rides they're a few months. They've been a few months ahead of us. They started earlier. However, we're going to be launching. I think they're launching their blockchain on the 29th. Our link is going to be the beginning of June. I'm looking to fly out to Utah, do the same ceremony that Paul just did, like the first week of June. Here's the way that I'm looking at it. When we went out to Utah, every president of every project was presenting. It was overwhelming. And it takes some time to really get them sometimes, right? So, I mean, now that I look at Grow, the more I hear about Grow, the more passionate I am. The more I hear Tony and Paul talk about REV Rides, the more passionate I get. But when it comes to our link, it's easy to explain, easy to share, easy to promote. If you can appeal to the masses, you can dine with the classes. It doesn't take a long time to get it. To me, it's a door opener to all the other projects, right? I call it the expose, involve, and upgrade. So if they would have come to me, for example, we're sitting there and we're getting all this information. If they just shared, hey, listen, it's the first video conferencing platform, really legit platform, a project to hit the blockchain that actually rewards users for doing meetings, I'm gonna be like, well, that's pretty easy to understand. And everybody I know uses video conferencing. It's pretty easy for me to share that and pitch it. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to do that. And so for me, once you get them in the door, then it's, oh, by the way, check out these other projects. We expose them. We get them involved with a free Connect account. We can get them involved in any of the projects. I think this is going to be a very simple project to get them involved. And then we upgrade them to the other projects. And I know Tony's going to talk about this, but the way the tokenomics works, 50 billion of the rewards for the project for a lifetime, half of those are released the very first year. So when you get involved in a project year one, and all of you are not just year one, you're going to be day one. So if you have a node, the day we roll out, you're going to be able to activate your node. You are one of the founding members, basically, of these projects. It's like being a founder of Zoom or Uber, in my opinion, in my mind. That's the way that I look at it. So never again will you get, now once you get the 25 billion to release the first year, it halves every year after that. So 12.5 billion the next year, then half the next year, and half. So this will be the most rewards that will ever be distributed in any project year one. And when you're able to purchase the node, right, the software for $2,500, and I was looking at the sales, I don't know Revo sales, but I'm sitting here going, right now, I don't know what's coming through. We got people that are ordering, buying 100 nodes. Right now, we're looking at least 3,300 to 3,500 for our link, for Rally, right? And 80% happens the last 20% of the time. We still have another 24 hours and big orders are coming in. So never again, it will absolutely go up, both projects in one day. And not only that, you're getting the most rewards for the lowest price ever for the node. So Tony, I know that was a lot, but hopefully that gives a little bit of clarity to why we're so excited, why we wanted to pull this together last minute. And I can tell you my tip, and then any questions or whatever, my tip to each and every one of you is make sure you communicate and get this Zoom out as fast as you possibly can. Because there will be people 2 days from now going, why didn't you tell me 2 days ago when I could have been involved and bought the node at a lesser price? Now, will it be a great value in our opinion? Oh yeah. I mean, it's, for a long time, because if you look at some of the previous projects, some of them you can't even get the nodes anymore. They're completely gone.
Right.
There's 100,000 nodes of projects. So Tony, back to you, and I'll hang out if you need me to answer anything else.
Well, I don't want to get too in depth. We want to kind of wrap things up. I've got one final guest that we've invited on to just kind of share a little bit about their background in these projects, and this is a gentleman that I've become pretty close to, and I've utilized a lot of the meetings and the mentorship that he delves out not only to his organization but my organization and other people's organizations, because he's just that, again, servant leader. We attract a lot of those type of folks, but when you can get involved early in projects, there's certainly risk involved, right? There's more risk to buy Tesla stock when the company was starting and Elon Musk was sleeping in the factory and they barely made it out of like the starting gates. That company was almost dead before it ever got started. And if you look at where they're at today, it's not risky at all to buy the stock. It goes up and down, but it looks like, hey, this thing's going to be a pretty good project. And so I always look at, could I have got involved early in Tesla? Could I have gotten involved early with Google, with Bitcoin? Obviously, but the one that I could have and should have got involved with early was called Gala Games. It was one of the early projects in this ecosystem, and somebody that did get involved is here with us, Billy Womack, and I want him to share a little bit about what happened for him when he saw a project several years ago and caught the vision, decided to get involved, purchase nodes, and then what happened from that point forward. And I might even be able to make him a host. Let me see if I can do that. That way, if he does want to share screen, he has the opportunity to do that. So I've got you on as a host. Can you hear us okay, Billy?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good, man.
Well, thanks for inviting me. And of course, Darren, you crushed it. And Paul, always. We wouldn't know Paul on here without his sense of humor. It was funny because Paul, that guy that called you from your ride share, was one of my guys that bought nodes. He sent me a picture of him ordering the ride share, and then he sent me a picture of him taking a picture with the driver with the REV hat on. He said, "Billy, look, we're operational in Orlando or in South Florida," and he told me that he got to speak with you, so that was really cool. And these guys Tony asked me to jump on and kind of share a little bit of my story. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Darren and his story. Darren and Tony and I actually met 6 months ago, I think right here in Vegas. But I know Tony was here. I don't think Darren was here for that meeting. And then Darren came up to Utah and we got to meet everybody. My story is not much different than a lot of other people's. I got involved with Bitcoin back at $200. I was looking for something different. I was looking for something that 10 million people aren't already doing. And I saw everybody talking about Bitcoin. This was late 2015, early 2016. And some guy said, you need to Google blockchain and FedEx, blockchain Mercedes-Benz, blockchain Walmart, blockchain, all these different companies. And the more I started reading up about it, the more I started understanding it. And now let me rephrase that. My first two opportunities I got into were rug pulls, Ponzi's. And unfortunately, with any good business, there's some snakes out in the grass, and there were that. And I had one guy said, I got a guy for you. I got somebody you need to meet. And sure enough, he put me on the phone with this guy. A week later, I was in Reykjavik, Iceland, learning how to make Bitcoin at $200 with these machines right here. This is actually came from Reykjavik, Iceland. The day I flew up there, this is an S5 Antminer, and I flew up to Reykjavik, Iceland, and the guy was worth at least $100 million when I met him. The next 13 months, I was on his private jet, flying around, learning how to mine Bitcoin. And I said, man, if Bitcoin ever hits $10,000, we're going to be rich, you know. And as they say, the rest is history. But it wasn't until people started following me on Instagram when they saw me started flying around with private jets, because they're like, all right, you were just broke, like 2 years ago, kind of like what Darren was talking about. I've had business, I've owned nightclubs, restaurants, sports marketing companies. I've done a little bit of everything. But at that particular time, just like Darren was talking about, I was going through a rough patch. I lost a lot of money in a business. I was struggling. I couldn't even afford my flight to Reykjavik, Iceland, but I knew there was over 300 millionaires flying there. And I was like, whatever they're doing, I need to be in that room. I need to figure out what it is they're doing and attach myself to it. So I got on the flight, learned that. And about a year and a half later, he said, you need to meet the guy that kind of got me involved in crypto. Let's fly to Utah. Same kind of scenario that Tony and everybody else went through. And this was way before Gala. And I was living in Tampa. I'm from Tampa. I live in Vegas now. And I was flying back and forth for a year. And he said, I got this crazy idea. We're going to build the biggest blockchain development company in the world. And I'm looking for some key eyes to help me launch this thing. And I was like, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about. It was so but I believed in him, and I saw his network. I saw what he was doing. I understood how to mine Bitcoin with these machines, but I didn't understand the software side of things. But I said, this guy's extremely successful. I know that he knows what he's talking about, but let me just dive in. And I just started getting immersed. They started getting me on these Zooms with the guys at Launch Gala. And the more I learned, I was like, man, all right, I'm not going to go all in, but I'm going to get in the game. Just coach, just put me in for a little bit, and let's just see how this thing goes. And so I remember getting the call from him a couple months later, say, I need you to come to Vegas. This is before I moved out here, and said, we flew out, and there was probably 25, 30 of us. He said, you need to get you some of these Gala game nodes. Actually, at the time, we weren't even called Gala. So we bought these nodes, and like Tony said, I bought a handful of them, probably less than $15,000 worth of these notes. And Tony, you want me to show that real quick? Should I show?
I had to let some people into the waiting room, so
I don't have to, but it's up to you.
You're good. I like to see it for sure. You should be. Let me make you the host. You should be good.
Okay. So, guys, what happened was I bought these 11 software nodes. They started creating. They have a responsibility. This is not a get rich quick scheme. It's so funny. People are like always talking to me about this. And I tell them all the time, I said, listen, you try to get rich slow. That didn't work. So there's nothing wrong with trying to get rich quick. But this is not to get rich quick. It took us several years to do this, to build out this platform. It was very generic. It was very basic. And we built this out. And I bought 11 software nodes. And those 11 software nodes have made me about $11.4 million. That means for every $1,000, because that's how much I bought my Gala nodes for. Now those nodes go for over $100,000 each. For every $1,000 I put into this software node, day one, which is kind of where Rev and Rally is, that's what we're really talking about tonight. So you got to have a little faith, just like Tony talked about. Now that we've proven this system, now you have a track record. I am your track record. This last blockchain we did is your track record. We'll see how well this does here. So what happens is those nodes got online. They have a responsibility to do. They confirm transactions. We got to deposit 7 days a week into our wallets. And then all of a sudden, the community, which is us, decided to start getting these on exchanges. We started seeing it go on exchanges. It went from 3 cents, 5 cents, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. I was like, holy snap. I woke up one day and I couldn't sleep during that time frame. I looked in my account. I had at that time, I had $10.2 million in my account. Now, guys, I don't come from a lot of money. Matter of fact, I had to get a full ride basketball scholarship just to go to college. We didn't have the money to go to college. I did that. blew up my knee going into. Then I ended up going in top secret. I had top secret clearance to the Air Force. Did this, and then I got out. Fortune 5 company. I was always hustling, but I'd never made that kind of money. What do you do when you wake up and you have $10 million+ liquid in your account? First thing I did was cry. I was like, "Holy shit! We did it! We did it!" And from that point on, I called my family. I said, "Listen, how do we help everybody in our family? Because it's one thing for you to make it in life; it's another thing to bring your family and get them involved and help them." And the first thing I did was I went out and got a brand new car that I enjoy, my Bentley, that I love. And then the next thing I did was I just started helping all my friends. But when Tony, for whatever reason, I'm going to try to refresh this, but it doesn't refresh. It's just too many people on here. I think it always works, but we'll try it and see real quick. And if not, then we'll just. I was going to show you guys. Still to this date, those 11 nodes that I paid $11,000 with are still minting me about $15,000 in rewards per month. So I only put 11K in. I pulled out millions and millions of dollars. I reinvested millions of dollars. I bought my dream car, my dream house here in Vegas, right on the Vegas Strip, and it's still making me about $15,000 per month. All right, that's not going to work, so I'm going to stop sharing. We tried. Normally, when we get on here, we don't have 436 people, so it's so good. That's the good news. The bad news, I couldn't show you guys, but I've shown it before. I'd be happy to show you guys at a later point. But what happened was when that hit, I said, all right, this guy knows what he's talking about. Now I'm going to go really all in. And we had a couple more blockchains that came out, and now I bought hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of nodes on all these newer projects, including Rev and Rally. I'm super, super stoked about these guys. When you get people like Tony that come on board, I remember that first day I met Tony. I was like, they were introducing a guy named Tomas was introducing him. We were sitting right here at the Waldorf in the conference room, and there was probably 15 or 20 of us, and Tony's just really just sit back and chill, just talking about. It's like, when's this guy going to show up that has all this money? That's what I'm thinking in my head. Because Tony's just so down to earth, and he started talking, and I'm like, oh, there he is. He's sitting next to me. This guy. When Tony talks, he's smooth, but he's very, very diverse in business. And I went into all mode at that point, and I was just like, all right, this is going to be good. And then when Tony's like, hey, I got a couple ideas. We're going to bring this and this. And that's what blockchain really is all about, is the people, the community saying, how do we give the power back to the people? How do we put the power back in the hands of other people? And that's kind of what this is all about, is when you grow a community of people that are entrepreneurs, forward-minded thinkers, and risk takers, because that's what we all are here, guys. There's no guarantee any of this will ever develop into anything. But when you have a group of people like us that come together, we are the ones that create the value. So remember that. Why do I get on these Zooms with all these other teams? Because this is not network marketing. This is a community of people. The stronger the network, the more valuable the network is. That's why I put in the hours and do this. Our team doubled from when Tony and all these guys, the excitement come in. We went from 4,000 to 8,000 people in the last 30 days just on my team alone. We're amassing just a massive team, and a lot of that comes from Darren and Tony and Paul and everybody. That momentum is building. You guys are in the right place at the right time with definitely the right team. Our legal team is second to none. Our core team, we don't have a corporate team, we have a core team. Our core team is second to none, and we are here to support you guys. We're here to innovate. And we're here to change the world. And that's why our company slogan is blockchain with a purpose. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about ROIs. We talk about how we can change the world. And when you talk about, and you get this many people focused on how we can change the world, we may not hit deadlines. We may go over deadlines. We may just, that part doesn't matter to us. It matters to those people chasing money. And I get that. But we focus on how we can change the world. And those people that can change the world, you push together, especially on the blockchain, massive things are going to happen. So for those of you that bought nodes, congratulations. For those that you have not bought nodes yet, I'm going to tell you, my money's banking on these guys that are on this call right now. I'm super blessed that I got to meet these guys, bought some nodes with these guys, and I'm banking on them all the way. So, Tony, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Appreciate you, brother. And, at the end of the day, I think, we've got 24 hours, give or take, before the node prices go to whatever the market determines they go to. Every 100 nodes sold, they go up $100. I think July, all nodes will be NFT'd. You'll be able to bridge them to ERC20. You can sell your nodes in the open marketplace probably by July, August of this year. So it will be open. And I imagine the prices are going to go up quite a bit. And it is what it is. It could not. It all depends on how many users we have. But, as Paul talked about, as Darren talked about, we're in areas and industries that are ripe for disruption. Nobody's really that loyal to Zoom. Nobody's that loyal to Google Meet or to Microsoft Teams. And if they're getting rewarded for using a software that they're doing meetings on, they'll probably choose to get rewarded versus not get rewarded. If you're getting rewarded for getting in a car for rideshare and you can do it for cheaper and the driver's getting paid more, you'll probably choose to get in that car. You know what I mean? Like, get the rewards versus not getting the rewards. And I've got to work with James, Paul. That's another thing we were talking about. Some of the leaders in the community is being able to, when someone downloads the REV app, we want to open up permissions for Uber and Lyft app if they have both on their phone. And so that way, when they book a ride on REV, it'll automatically pull up the other apps' rates and show them what it would cost for the exact same ride. Wow. And then we can adjust our algorithms in different cities. And if we are a little more expensive, we'll just give crypto to make up for it. But if we're doing enough rides, we'll keep adjusting the algorithm, so we'll always be a little bit cheaper than Uber or Lyft. The drivers will always make more. As crazy as it sounds, it's like the Uber customers will be their worst enemies if they download our app and literally just let us have the data, and we'll pay them. Like, we'll say, look, if you give us data and show us, like, hey, this is what Uber's charging for the exact same ride, this is what Lyft's charging for the, like, we'll give them tokens for just doing that. And all they're doing is adding a permission for the app. It's like your app's like, hey, do you want permission for the microphone? Do you want permission to your contacts? Apps ask us for permissions all the time. We'll just say, hey, grant us permission to pull up your other rideshare apps. And then literally their customer base will be their biggest enemy at Lyft and Uber, because they'll be giving us the data. Because why would you do that for Uber? Why would you do that for Lyft? They're not going to reward you. They're not going to pay you to do that. We will. And so we have advantages that none of these companies are ever going to have. They're never going to fully decentralize. And we can purchase those nodes right now at $2,500. The price has been artificially held down because, honestly, it was kind of my fault. I brought in a group of like around 100,000 people, and it was taking a long time to get them in. And a lot of them wanted to buy nodes, but they weren't in the system. And I just felt like it would be wrong for us to take someone who was going, I want to buy one of those nodes at 2,500, and we're saying, hey, you got to wait until you're in system, and it's a week later, and now the node is 3,500. I still think, like Darren said, it's an amazing deal if we pull this off. But I always feel a little disappointed if I wanted it 2,500 and I had to buy it at 3,500. So it's like, hey, let's hold the price down, and then it's going to launch up here in about 24 hours, a little over 24 hours. I think we're going 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. So we got a little bit of time, a little bit of an on-ramp here to get up to speed to get those nodes. And as Billy said, becoming that early node owner in the Gala project changed his life. It really did. Now, that doesn't mean that's going to happen here. It doesn't mean we're going to repeat it. But I can tell you this. If you buy a Gala node today, it's probably not the same opportunity as when Billy bought it. It's probably not quite the same, upside. And as cool as it is to play games on your phone, I think it's cooler to actually take a ride and go somewhere in real life. I think it's cooler to do a meeting and get paid for it in the real world versus just selling a cow on a farming game to my friend who plays the same farming game. Not that that's not cool. I just think real world utility is better. And so we have an opportunity to be that spearhead, that tip of the spear of this blockchain revolution, of this decentralized revolution in rideshare and meeting software. So I would recommend that if you have the ability, get signed up for free. Obviously, whoever invited you onto tonight's webinar, get their link, sign up for free. Once you're in the system, if you say, hey, the Rev notes sound great, the rally notes sound great, buy some. Buy some. I had somebody, my neighbor, not here, but in Kansas, I got a place, and I was back there a couple weeks ago. And I met him for the first time, and he's like, what do you do? And I was like, I've got these blockchain projects. And I was talking about Rev and Rally. And he works at Coke, Koch, not COKE. It's the oil company, Coke Industries, second largest privately held company on the planet. And he's an engineer there, and his wife's a CFO for one of the big conglomerates over there at Coke. And he was interested in blockchain. He never really heard about it. So he's like, you're working in blockchain? And I was like, yeah, and I told him a little bit about it. And as the first night I met him or whatever, and then I flew back to Puerto Rico like the next day. And he messaged me. He's like, hey, I want to learn more about these projects, And I was like, here's the video. And he started finding like videos. And he's like, I've been watching your stuff because I bought some nodes. I got one rally and one rev. And I got a win node. And I was like, it's awesome, man. I didn't even tell him really what a node was or anything, but he's just kind of doing his own thing. And then today he's like, hey, I just bought 15 win nodes and 15 rally nodes. And I was like, really? I was like, that's awesome, And I was like, that's pretty exciting. And it's like, how many people are going to catch that vision? And he's like, it makes so much sense. This is a guy that's not in blockchain, doesn't really understand crypto, but he understands getting rewarded for doing something that he's going to do anyway, probably for the rest of his life, and that his kids are going to do and his grandkids are going to do. And we have that opportunity to be the first movers. And I would recommend you get in system, and if you can afford to, become one of the first node owners. If you can't, that's okay. There's still opportunity. Build the community. Bring a driver to Rev. You bring a driver, imagine you're making $1 every ride they go on. No big deal. The average driver will do 20 rides in a day, though. It's $20. What if you had 10 drivers around the country doing 20 rides a day? That's $200 a day. Now that's not crypto. That's real money, like USD, like straight, going into your ACH, going in there. On top of that, you'll get Rev tokens. You'll get rewarded for building that community. Imagine sharing a link with me, and instead of using my Zoom, you say, Tony, you should use your R link, use Rally. And I use it. And every month when I pay my bill, there's a free version, but let's say I don't want it to shut off. I want the bells and whistles that it has. I use it. I start the paid version, which is cheaper than Zoom, but you're getting paid real money every month that I pay that bill. And on top of the real money you're getting our magic internet money, which again, right now, not a lot of liquidity, not a lot of people, using it. But fast forward to what Billy saw when there was not a lot of games, very, basic. And then all of a sudden you got 10 plus million people in the community. Go ahead, Billy.
And I'll tell you guys, when I was selling the Gala nodes at $1,000 each, nobody wanted it. Why? Because it was a big risk. This is where you guys are right now. It wasn't until Gala hit 2 or 3 cents, my inbox was flooded. People were buying them at $6,000 and $8,000 a node. It was just instant. I was like, holy cow! The sales just went through the roof because then it was tangible. You guys are going to see an influx right now. We've got a couple other projects that we've been working on that are getting ready to go to market, or go on the exchanges. When those hit, I'm going to tell you, we've got a massive group on my team alone that bought hundreds of these nodes. And when they do, the first thing they're going to do is come back and buy the Rev and Rally nodes. They've been foaming at the mouth to buy a big chunk of these things. So I'm going to tell you, in the next 90 days, like Tony just said, I guarantee you most of these nodes are going to be gone, because I've got guys that have been with me now for 6 years over here that have got over 50 to 150 switch nodes and all these other nodes that we have. The second those hit 2 or 3 or 4 cents, they're going to come over and get 50 to 100 of these nodes, no matter what the price is. So get ready. If you guys haven't gotten your nodes from Rev and Rally, you got the first movers mark. This is the cheapest they've ever been, the cheapest they will ever be. So don't hesitate. Get them now.
And appreciate it, Billy. All right, lock and load, everybody. That's a wrap tonight. We're 53 minutes in, still over 424 people. Appreciate you guys sharing your time with us. Again, there's opportunities. They're never lost. They just move to people that take advantage of them. And there's never any guarantees in life. But I look at something like Rally. I look at something like Rev. And I've invested in a lot of things over the years. I've purchased a lot of different nodes and different projects. And what I love about Rev and Rally probably the most as far as these projects are concerned in blockchain, when I do oil exploration and I put down money into exploring oil wells and they start drilling, I'm not a geologist, I'm not an engineer. There's nothing I can do to help that project strike oil. And there are times where they come up with a dry well, and whatever I put into that oil project is Gandhi. It's over. I got nothing from it, and that's okay. I'm well aware that could happen, and that's why I tell you, don't take out a second mortgage on your home to buy Rev and Rally does. I think Darren actually would. He'd throw everything he's got. I think Paul would as well. I tell you, I don't do that. Don't be like Darren and Paul and be that crazy. And I know, right? We got a lot of buddies that would do that. I just don't think it's a good idea. But at the end of the day, I can't control whether my friends strike oil when they're drilling. I just got to pray and say, hey, hope they do a good job. Hope they get a deep dig in there and get it drilled down and find some oil. With these projects, people like us that are on tonight's meeting, we can move the needle. Like, we can add users to the rideshare project. We can add users to the meeting project. And if we add a bunch of users, like Billy said, the bigger the network, the bigger the net worth. Metcalfe's law says something pretty simple. The value of a network is the number of users squared. If I'm the only person on the planet with a cell phone, it's pretty much worthless. If me and Billy have cell phones, it's worth 2 squared. If me, Billy, and Darren, it's worth 3 squared. If me, Billy, Darren, and Paul, it's worth 4 squared. If everybody on here has one, it's worth 402 people squared. That's why Facebook is such a valuable network. When you have 1 billion, 2 billion users, the value of that network is the number of users squared. We can all impact how many users come into our communities and into our network just by sharing it with others. So you're in the right place at the right time. The last piece is you got to take massive and immediate action. Tonight's actions, I'd say get into the ecosystem. And if you can afford it, grab a Rev node, grab a Rally node, or do what my neighbor did and get a bunch of them. Whatever you want to do. I got more than about anybody here. I got $54 million worth of nodes. So I'm certainly all in and committed. I'd be more like the bacon than the eggs. I'm more committed than the chicken. The chicken just gave the egg, the bacon, I guess the pig gave it all. So I'm certainly very bullish on these. And I never would ask somebody to do something in business that I hadn't already done myself. If you want to buy 55 million worth of nodes, I got actually a guy a few blocks from me where I live in Puerto Rico I can put you on the phone with.